Wisdom Exchange TV. My name is Suzanne F. Stevens, Chief Edge Optimizer for the Ignite Excellence Group of Initiatives. One of our key initiatives is the Ignite Excellence Foundation, where we invest, inspire, and develop future women leaders in emerging countries. With that goal in mind, we created Wisdom Exchange TV, where we travel all over Africa interviewing pioneers, trailblazers, leaders of many in politics, business, philanthropy, and education. Today we're in Johannesburg, South Africa, with our leading lady in business, Sibongile Sambo. She is the founder and managing director of SRS Aviation, the first 100% black female-owned aviation company that offers clients professional and personalized flight options to destinations around the world. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you and welcome to Wisdom Exchange TV.
Thank you so much.
It's great to interview somebody in aviation because there's not a lot of you, as you just said. And therefore, a real opportunity for women to see that, you know, the sky's the limit in all senses of the word. So what was the catalyst for starting SRS Aviation?
It's purely the passion and the love for aeroplanes. I've loved aeroplanes since I was very, very young. Here in South Africa, we've got 9 provinces, and I was born in a different province called Mpumalanga, but went to high school in a different province, KwaZulu-Natal, in Durban. And I used to force my parents to actually book me on a flight back home once in a while during holidays. Then I would get time to sit with the pilots in the cockpit, and that was before, you know, they were so strict about getting into the cockpit. In 1994, when South Africa had its own first democratic, you know, elections, and post that, new policies and procedures were introduced, and one of them, you know, was the black economic empowerment and the women economic empowerment in our country, where we were encouraged as young women to come in and enter the business environment. So I left my human resources practice to actually pursue a business in what I'm passionate about, and that's, you know, aeroplanes. And I decided to call the company SRS Aviation, which are my initials.
Do you fly?
I don't fly officially, but yes, I can fly. It just takes time to build the hours, you know, with my extensive travel and stuff, yeah. But the intention is to finally have a license and fly my clients.
Wonderful. So now you've won many awards for your entrepreneurship ability.
Yes.
Firstly, tell us what makes your business so unique.
One, it's unique because it's owned, you know, by myself, being a young, you know, black woman from Africa who had never had, you know, opportunities to even get into the industry in whatever level. Secondly, I've traveled extensively worldwide, and I've managed to establish networks globally, and aviation is a global business, so I've got business partners all over the world that makes my work easy and be able to beat other people in terms of pricing because of the networks that I've got and the access to the different aeroplanes globally. Yes.
I could call you and you could organize a plane for me in Canada, perhaps.
Oh yes, oh yes, and I don't even need to see the flight taking place.
Right.
We can leave Canada and go straight to Australia and back to Canada, but my company will make sure that all the logistical arrangements are done with the company that will be actually flying you to Australia.
Is there anything else that makes you unique?
Yes. What also makes us unique is our speed and flexibility in offering our services. And for example, one of our biggest clients is our own government. And sometimes they get flights that they confirm in the middle of the night, and they need a flexible, you know, person to be able to assist them. And some of those flights are of high, you know, how do I call it? But private, like, how do you call it, presidential flights? Yeah, you find that the president needs to get somewhere, but his aeroplane is down on technical, and they need a company that can be able to handle that kind of protocol and the kind of aeroplane that is needed that can carry a head of state. So that makes us unique because we're able to do that.
So what do you think is the key to success in growing a business?
One is the good attitude. You need to have a very good attitude, because running a business is never easy. You know, you meet people that will try to run you down. You'll meet, you know, cases that are so challenging that can make you to lose your temper. Carrying that good attitude with yourself all the time, consciously having a good attitude, helps you to grow your business, you know, very well.
Is there something that you do specifically, or something that you can recommend other people do to try to gain perspective when things get really kind of tough?
When things get tough, I get back to my philosophy to also remind myself who I am and what is my intention and why am I living, you know, in this world. And that philosophy keeps me going, because you will meet challenges and it gets very lonely as a business person. You know, the harder you work, the lonely it gets as well. So that assists me very well.
So to be an entrepreneur, what do you think some of the key characteristics a person needs to have to be successful?
One, you need to persevere on the idea that you have, on the business that you're running. You know, persevere and chase those opportunities. And secondly, you have to network. There's no way that you can run a business and stay in isolation from either politics or other business people. There are networking conferences where you need to make sure that you attend, so that you network with other people at the same level and be able to identify opportunities, and also to be able to give input to other people. So it's one of the two things, you know, that I would recommend to people.
It's interesting. Networking is so important, and I hear it a lot. And I believe in it. I believe in networking. Yes. But it's also what you do with that network.
Yes.
You know, to be seen is not enough.
Yes.
So do you have any advice on, if you make those contacts,
yeah,
how do you then make sure that you establish some sort of business relationship with them in the future?
You know, for me, when I started the business, I used to go to anything and everything that I get invited to. But later on, I realized that I'm either wasting my time or it's not working for me. Now, when I get invited or I see a conference or a networking opportunity that I want to attend, one, I would identify what is the networking you know, conference all about. Is it relevant to me? Is it relevant to my business? Secondly, I research who are the people that are going to attend that gathering. Then I identify particularly the people that I will be targeting to make sure that I talk to, I get their details, they get my details, they get to know me, because I have a specific business opportunity that I would like to pursue with them. So networking can be very broad, but you have to have targeted networking that is meaningful for you and your business.
Great advice. Now, once that connection is made, then what do you do after that networking opportunity? Do you reach out to them, or how do you do that?
Okay. Thereafter, you reach out to them through telephone, through emails, and also it's easier to talk to people on the phone when they've met you before. It becomes easier that you get on the phone and say, "Hi, I'm Sibongile Sambo, we met at this gathering on this particular day," and the attitude on the other side is different from when you call a person and you've never met them, they don't know who you are, and you're really trying to market your product or your service. And also sending material just to support what I'm selling to those potential clients. It helps a lot. And also, if we've got functions, like recently, we had the biggest air show for aerospace and defense, and also invite them, you know, and the general to come and see what you can offer and what the rest of the industry can offer here. And also position yourself in such a way that when they get here, then they can see that you have a market share in this industry. Like recently it happened, I invited people from Boeing because there's a business opportunity I'm trying to get to with Boeing. And they came all the way from Seattle, they spent time with us here in South Africa, and they could see that we are serious business people who really want to do business with them.
As far as your education, did you have any education that prepared you to be an entrepreneur?
Unfortunately not. The education that I have, or I had before I started my business, was just general, education. My first degree is a Bachelor of Administration, and I majored in Political Science and Industrial Psychology, which actually helped me in the first 7 years of my career, because then I worked in a Human Resources department. Then I studied my honors degree in Industrial Psychology that actually assisted me in the work that I was doing in the Human Resources and Organizational Development environment. But thereafter, in terms of entrepreneurship, how to write a business plan, how you apply for funding, what it means to even have a collateral, that information I didn't know about. I just got into the business, without formal training. But through research, I already knew that these are the things that I will need to know, I'll need to put together, but I never got formal training on that. I think it's more on the job training. Yes, it's more on the job. And I read a lot. Business magazines, get on the internet, and also reading other people's, stories, how they started, their businesses, what happened through the recession. I think all those things have actually trained me to become the kind of entrepreneur that I am now, without actually getting a certificate or a degree or a diploma in that area.
I think entrepreneurs are built that way, to be a little bit free-spirited anyway. Now, do you have a favorite book? You mentioned reading. Do you have a favorite book that you would recommend that helped you or could help others being an entrepreneur or in business success that you enjoyed reading?
The book that I enjoy reading is not more into business. It focuses more on your personality, and it's called The Life You Were Born to Live by Dan Millman. Because what it does, you read about yourself and what you were actually born to live, to do, your characteristics, and when you're operating in the negative or you're operating on the positive, where you can achieve a lot, not only in business, but even in your social life, in anything else that you do generally. So that is a book that I normally recommend to a whole lot of people to read, because even in entrepreneurship, it starts with you as a person. If you don't understand who you are and what you stand for, then it's not easy also to deal with entrepreneurial challenges.
What would be the best advice you could give to aspiring entrepreneur?
Get into business with an open mind. Know that you can have a very good business idea, but sometimes the environment may not allow you to achieve. Be flexible. Be able to think out of the box. Find a way in which you can diversify your product or your service offering so that you become profitable at all times. Because once you are in business, it's all about profitability. It doesn't help to be so passionate about something that is not bringing in money for you. You should be able to realize profits. And if you can't realize them in that initial idea, try to carve around it and see what you can add on it that can keep you afloat with your cash flow.
I think that's really good advice, particularly in a lot of the businesses that I've been speaking to in Africa,
Yes.
where there's a lot of do-good people, which is fantastic and inspiring and wonderful, but at the end of the day, doing good without sustainability is no longer doing good.
Oh yes.
and so making sure that you're adding pieces to that to be profitable. And I guess you're doing that now too with your business.
A lot.
Because now you have how many different sort of core businesses?
Yes, we've got 4 at the moment, different core businesses. We started our business as purely an air charter business, and in the last 2.5 years with the jet fuel hikes and the recession, that business became very quiet, and one needed to think very fast on what other opportunities that one can look at. Of course, there were other industries like mining, which is huge in Africa, agriculture and other areas. But for me, because I'm so passionate about aviation, I decided to diversify, but within the same industry. So now we are able to supply aircraft spare parts for Boeing and Airbus to airlines. We're able to supply ground handling equipment to airports. We're able to supply information technology to airlines, which is something that they can't live without. in this day and age. You need a system to book for your flight. You need a system to manage your crew. You need a system to manage your fleet. And those systems is what we provide to our clients as well.
And you know what's interesting? On the most part, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but it sounds like 3 of the businesses that you've branched out on have the same customer.
Yes.
Which is interesting, because then the core business has a different customer.
Yes.
Right? So the different customer is people that want to hire to get from A to B.
Yes.
That could be the general public.
Yes.
But the other 3 industries, the customer is actually the airline industry.
Yes.
Where a lot of times when people want to diversify, they focus on their core product and
Yes.
change the customer.
Yeah.
What you've done, on the most part, is
Yes.
change the product and kept the same customer.
Yes, I did that because, you know, when I did my research, starting my business, air charter services was very clear that it's a way to do business, because at that time, you would find that we're here in Africa and a businessman wants to go and start a mining opportunity in Gabon, but they can't fly from South Africa to Gabon. They have to go all the way to France before they get to Gabon. So for me, it's the thing that made me realize there's a big opportunity on the air charter side. But as I went along, I realized that aviation and aerospace aviation is much bigger than charter. So the airports and the airlines are the biggest, you know, customer base for other products. Excuse me. And then I decided to focus on that, on the airlines and the airports, because they are huge. Whereas charter is now a small component of our business.
With that growth, do you see yourself continue to grow and to continue to expand?
Yes, definitely. We've recently opened a branch in Nigeria. The company is called SRS Aviation Nigeria, and we also have SRS Aviation Ghana, because we want to target the rest of the African continent, and we try very hard as well to find local partners to be able to expand, you know, entrepreneurs in this environment.
How about some strategies for connecting with your multitude of stakeholders?
For me, because aviation is a global business, and our stakeholders are all over the world, and I had to travel extensively to make sure that I meet with the different stakeholders. You know, the manufacturers of the aircraft spare parts that I'm supplying. You know, I had to go physically, meet them, meet the team, do training with them, you know, and that creates a level of trust, because as you transact, sometimes I'll get a client here, say one of the biggest airlines locally, and they're not paying me within the 30 days that they've, you know, promised. They pay 45 days late. You need to create that relationship with your stakeholders so that they know you, they trust you, and they believe in you, that you can actually be able to do business with them and a profitable business with them. So it's one of the strategies that I've used to connect with the key stakeholders. And also my other key stakeholders here are the different governments. They are key stakeholders, they are key clients for me. I participate when they ask for views in terms of developing of new policies. If they ask for input, I make sure that I'm available, I give input. If they come up with different mentorship programs like we did this weekend, we were involved in a Techno Girl mentorship program where we mentor young girls from grade 10 to grade 12 on entrepreneurship, and we spent the whole weekend at a camp teaching them how to write a business plan, getting them to compete, presenting those business plans to us. And it's one of the areas that are initiated by the Department of Trade and Industry in South Africa. Because they are my key stakeholder, I make sure that I also assist them in achieving what they need to get achieved. So those are some of the strategies that I use.
What are some of the unique elements of aviation business that you need to contend with?
Aviation is a highly regulated environment, and for me to stay on top of my game, I need to comply, and not only with local regulations, but with international regulations such as the FAA regulation in the US, the European, aviation regulations, ICAO, IATA. We've got lots of institutions that actually regulate this industry. And for you to be able to stay on the game, you need to comply. So compliance for me is one of the issues that I deal with on a daily basis with the operations department, with HR department, when we work on strategy with the board. That always comes, as one of the key elements. Safety is one of the key elements that we cannot compromise in this industry, because once you have an incident or an accident, then you might even lose your entire business, because it's so difficult to regain people's trust. You carry people's lives. You supply an equipment to an airline to fix their aeroplane, and if that equipment is defective and is not up to scratch in terms of compliance, and an accident happens, and that particular component or part of an aeroplane came from your company, you don't want to deal with those kind of issues. So there are critical things in aviation that you cannot live without, and that is compliance with regulations and legislation.
Now, because you have these four sort of divisions within your organization, but there's not a lot of staff, how do you manage to deal with all those four areas and still have a life?
Yes, I work with a company called MCC Aviation. We've signed an enterprise development agreement. They are a bigger organization. They own airplanes and helicopters. They've got staff. So we share office premises, we share equipment. So we do quite a lot of things together. So I'm able to tap into what they have within their organization. So I had to leave my structure very lean and keep my overheads very low, at the same time being able to offer that quality service and product. And through strategic partnership with MCC Aviation, it has made my job very easy. And for me to be able to still go and look for business abroad, and knowing that there is somebody here who is assisting us, to run a profitable business.
Yeah, those partnerships are really key. When I started out on my own as an entrepreneur, I had a key partnership as well. Yes. And it helps know that you can talk to someone, or they can take care of something when you're not present, which is wonderful.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned winning business a few times and getting new clients. So more from the side, less on the aviation side, but more on the clients that are actually going to fly with you and use your services. How do you go about winning that sort of business and drawing those clients to you?
Our business is more of a word-to-mouth kind of referral business. For an example, a head of state in Burundi, a brilliant flight. I give him the best equipment, and the service is, flawless. He will be able to talk to other people at his level to say, if you go to South Africa, you will find SRS Aviation. They will be able to offer you this kind of service. And it's a niche market where we are. So for you to be able to gain more clients and keep your old clients, you should be able to be flexible, give the best product, the best price. Those are the issues. Safety, it should be key. And also making sure that I visit my clients. I visit my clients, very often. Those that I can manage to visit, I visit them a lot. I make contact by email. Some of them are even Skype with some of my clients after a flight. Then I Skype and I find out how was the flight, how was my crew, did they treat you well? You ordered this part, did it get to you on time? You had an issue with the landing gear, was that, helpful what we did, was it enough? So those kind of interactions with your clients, they help you to be able to get more clientele, because they will tell their other counterparts in other airlines to say, this company you can rely on, do business with this company you can rely on.
The crew, is that your crew, or that you assimilate, or does somebody else assimilate it?
Okay, it depends. Like I mentioned, there are aeroplanes that I manage myself that are on my license, meaning the owner said, Sibongile, here is my aeroplane, a Gulfstream 2. You can use it for your charter services. I'm responsible for that aeroplane with crew, making sure she goes on service when she needs to go for service, making sure she's fueled on time, she's parked properly, she's cleaned properly. So that is my full responsibility. But if you come in and you want a Gulfstream 5, which I don't have on my fleet, then I'm going to call my counterpart, because we have got sub-charter rates, which you cannot get directly, you know, as a client, but I can get because we barter in the industry. Then I use their crew, but I make sure that I manage the process.
See, that's where my question's actually going, is what service do you do to ensure that this niche market, which I'm now part of, I've decided, this niche market is receiving the service that they expect and want? Do you do anything specifically?
Yeah, you do your meet and greet with the client. Even if somebody is doing a flight for you, especially if it's a flight that is taking off here where I originate. You know, it's your regular clients as well that originate from here. Make sure that you connect on a one-on-one basis with your client. Even if somebody else is actually carrying the whole flight or doing the job for you, but the client should not feel that there's a gap. It's not SRS directly that is actually offering the service. You should be able to have service level agreements with your subcontractor. Make sure that you check when they come back, you know, has the flight gone according to plan? You know, you have your own, you know, checklist of things that needs to be done for each and every flight. You know, you check that all those things have been done, you know, and also you don't give the full service to the third party to do it for you. There are things that you still have to do it yourself. You know, all the logistical arrangements, we still need to be in control. We still keep that communication line directly with the client, even if somebody actually does the job, but you are still fully involved.
What is the biggest challenging aspect of your career?
It's the growth of the business, you know, getting into different territories that you don't know, you know, moving to other countries. We're also looking at starting something in India, you know, so dealing with different dynamics of different countries for us at the moment is the biggest challenge that we need to understand to be able on how we can be able to conquer it. You know, we have recently started diversifying outside South Africa in terms of having bases there. Before we could offer the service, you know, in those different countries, but having a base, complying with the local requirements, you know, having an office there that will service our clients, you know, it's, and also dealing with different, you know, we have different backgrounds, we have different characteristics, we've got different ways in which we do business. You know, so those are the challenges that one comes across as you move and expand your business into, you know, I will call them foreign territories, because what is done in South Africa may not necessarily be how business is done in Angola or in the Democratic Republic of Congo. You know, it's different. It's something that we have to learn on a daily basis, and we meet challenges that we need to learn and overcome.
Now, you had mentioned that you had lost your licenses at one point. Has there been an initiative, maybe it's that one, that you put into place and it just didn't work? It could be any initiative. It just did not work. And
yes.
What was the initiative? Why didn't it work? And what would you do differently now?
At the beginning, when I was looking at diversification strategies, one of the things that I had identified was opening aviation shops at different airports. And I actually did that. I consulted AXA here in South Africa, the airport company. I managed to get space. I spent a lot of time, you know, getting the shop up and running, put stock and all that. But it was just a miscalculation, because aviation is a very niche market with a certain number of clientele. So with me selling those expensive aeroplane looking earrings and jewelry, pilot watches, I I can only target a particular market. It's not a big market for me to be able to sustain a shop in, that is so expensive to rent on a monthly basis. At some point I had to make a decision and close down the shop, which I did. But the opportunity was that I managed to then sell my stuff, online. If you go on my website, you can see the items that we're selling. And we get lots of inquiries, not only inquiries from people who would walk through that airport and come in and buy one thing today. And we sell to people online, we ship the stuff to them, and we get more business online now. So that's what we did. At the shop, it failed at the airport, an aviation shop particularly.
Now, I want to bring you to our edginess segment. And just a reminder what edginess is. It's sort of an enhanced version of you, but you have to get there by doing something that pushes the edge of your comfort zone, something that you've had to do in your business that really makes you uncomfortable, but you have to do it in order to achieve the success that you've achieved.
Wow. Being difficult with my staff, and act in a manner that is a little bit beyond assertive, In business you still need to be assertive, but there are situations that your staff would put you into where you need to, be more hard on them. For instance, having to fire somebody, like I mentioned earlier on. I had to do it at some point, but it's something that takes me out of my comfort zone, because I know as soon as I fire somebody that person is not going to have income, and that it doesn't only affect the person, but it affects the family of that person. So for me, it's something that I had to do for my business, because I need to protect my business and grow my business. At the same time, it's not something that made me feel good. It's something that really took me out of my comfort zone, knowing very well that it's something that I had to do, but actually doing it, it's never easy for me.
I want to mention this one too when we were talking about this pre the interview, because I think it's also a very powerful one. Is when you're at a board meeting or you need to speak up and be a little more aggressive about your point of view.
Yes.
That makes you very uncomfortable, but you need to be aggressive about your point of view to get the point across.
Yes.
And I think a lot of women have that challenge, that they don't want to speak up, or they don't want to be aggressive, or they don't want to be perceived as aggressive.
Yes.
And yet, if you don't speak up, you wouldn't be where you are.
Yes, no, definitely. I sit in different boards, and as a board member, I'm expected to give my input. But being especially in the boards that I sit in the industry, initially when I started, I wouldn't even be recognized because purely it's like I'm entering a territory that doesn't belong to me. But for me to be able to get my point across, I needed to learn to speak the language. In aviation we have our language, and we speak in a particular way. You address certain things in a particular way, and as soon as you speak the aviation language, then people start listening to you, and respecting you and saying, oh, she is one of us, So those are the kind of things, that would take me out of a comfort zone. And sometimes, I'm a lady, I like to dress up in a very feminine way. But sometimes in this industry, I have to be in a black suit or a gray suit, when I go to a particular kind of a meeting, so that I can fit in, within a particular kind of grouping, so that when I speak as well, I'm regarded as one of us or one of them, and those things makes me uncomfortable, because I really want to be free. I just want to be who I am, and do things in a different way, or in a way that makes me comfortable.
Thank you so much for sharing. Well, again, another inspiring interview with a woman that really is a pioneer and a trailblazer in South Africa in the aviation business. So I wish you most success. Thank you so much for joining us.